Stacey Cameron. Welcome to 5 Strategies for Effective Email Communication. Emails can make or break a relationship, like the one we see here. Peer writes, I sent an email without the attachment, noticed, sent a second email apologizing for forgetting to attach the attachment without the attachment. Then wrote out a third email and genuinely came so close to sending that third email again without the attachment. Or consider the case of Mike. Very recently sent an email to my manager, Mariana, addressing her as Marinara. A well-crafted email can make the difference between successful working relationship and potential confusion, conflict, or even insult. Internal communications like emails, memos, and reports must be clear, comprehensive, and complete. Effective writing can make your company more profitable and your workforce happier and more productive. On the other hand, if communications are unclear, you and your employees will find yourselves forced to rewrite or explain them. Poor writing is literally a waste of time and money. Consider, for example, the case of Oakhurst Dairy. The lack of an Oxford comma in labored legislation cost a Maine dairy company dearly in 2017. The judges opened their decision on the matter by highlighting the punctuation mark's legal importance. For want of a comma, we have this case. The suit concerned an exemption from Maine's overtime law that says it doesn't apply to canning, processing, preserving, freezing, drying, marketing, storing, packing for shipment, or distribution of foods. Here is that sentence. The delivery drivers contended that packing for shipping or distribution described one action referring to packing. The company, Oakhurst Dairy, argued that the law described 2 actions, referring to packing for shipment separately from distribution. However, the United States Court of Appeals ruled that without a comma, the delivery workers were not exempt and therefore were due their overtime pay. The uncertainty in this sentence ultimately cost the dairy company $5 million. There are countless examples like this one where typos or miscommunications that have led to huge financial losses. Instead of making a costly mistake like this, there are strategies that you can learn to improve your written communication, especially regarding emails. I could talk for hours about the specifics of writing professional emails in the 2021 workplace, but today I want to present 5 concrete ways to immediately improve your business emails. Mastering these tools will boost your professionalism and improve your relationship with colleagues and clients alike. By the end of this presentation, you will have 5 new strategies that you can apply to your writing immediately. Bottom line on top, write clear, searchable subject lines, eliminate passive voice, be specific, and review before sending. Let's get into the first strategy. Okay, BLOT stands for bottom line on top. Many people have learned to write in an academic setting where they are taught to save the main point for the conclusion. But in a fast-paced business environment, this method is ineffective. If your goal is to get key information to your audience quickly, lead with the bottom line on top, BLOT. If you need a reminder of what your bottom line should be, ask yourself, what is the most important basic information that my reader needs to know, and why is it important for them to read this message and take action? Once you've identified that, make it your first sentence. That way you're giving your readers the information they need to act up front, and you're backing it up with logically organized supporting data. Your BLOT could be something like, I'm writing to let you know that we had a cancellation from one of the presenters for our July 17 meeting and that I need your input by end of day this Friday to decide what to do with the agenda for that meeting. The rest of the message you can elaborate on the background, the data, the rationale, and specifics, whatever you think the audience might be interested in knowing if they have the time to read. Just make sure you lead with BLOT and not the other stuff. Okay, our second strategy. Write clear, searchable subject lines. Make your subject line work for you. This week alone, I deleted 1,137 messages from my email inbox. Viewing their subject lines, I was reminded of what typically makes me read a message: specificity. Something specific in the subject. In the real estate of space, where people consume email messages, the subject line represents prime property. It's not only the first chance you have to grab the recipient's attention so that they open and read your email message, but it's also an important opportunity to use the folders and filters to archive important messages. But it also begins conveying meaningful information from the very beginning. Yes, you could use the subject about the monthly meeting, but a vague subject line like this one creates more questions than it answers and also leaves the recipients wondering how important or relevant the message may be to them. Is this email just delivering general information about our monthly meetings? Is there an issue or a problem? Is the message about last month's meeting? Next month's meeting? Oh, I guess I'll just open it, but I'm not sure I have time now, though, and that's how email messages get sent to the file of no return. Consider instead the subject, need your input for July 17 meeting agenda. This subject line is much more direct and far clearer. The subject line outlines that the sender needs something from me, and I know exactly which meeting and what aspect of the meetings she needs my input on. I might even have an idea of the input she wants or needs because she's given me some good specific context there in the subject line. Now that I know what this is about, I can immediately start thinking of when I need to tackle this task, the time saver. The subject line is of the utmost importance for archiving important emails, messages, invitations, etc., as you will search these terms directly in the search function when needing to recall their contents. No one appreciates it when you can't find the information that they sent you. Your ability to access the information you've collected via email is an important aspect of smooth functioning operations and for protecting interprofessional communication with colleagues. Our third strategy, eliminate passive voice. Get active. In writing, there are two grammatical voices, an active voice and a passive voice. Passive voice tells what is being done or what was done to the person or object. It is often made up of a form of the verb to be, like is enjoyed or was eaten, were chosen, things like that. Business professionals often favor the passive voice to avoid assessing blame or accountability. However, relying too heavily on the passive voice can make your writing confusing. Passive voice tends to be more prolonged and even tedious to read. You may waste words and time in getting to your point. Or it might make your writing sound impersonal. You can eliminate the passive voice and write more succinctly by including actors for the verbs in your sentence. Let's look at a few examples. For instance, the top two sentences, the case was filed on time and a mistake was made tabulating sales for the third quarter, are each written in passive voice. See the verb to be and the lack of an actor. In this case, it was, and you don't see who is acting on the verb. Writing like this can be infuriating to read, but it's fairly simple to fix. Add an actor for the verb at the beginning of the sentence. Signal to your readers who perform the action of the verb. For example, in this case, HR filed the case on time. And then for the second one, just take responsibility. Flat out say, I made a mistake tabulating sales for the third quarter. It's far more direct. And now on to strategy 4. In all business writing, the audience is the top consideration. Your audience is the person or people you want to communicate with. By knowing more about them, their wants, their needs, their values, things like that, you're able to better craft your message so that they will receive it the way you intended. Who you are writing for will determine how you will write your email. The reader will actually determine the tone, formality, and the content of the communication. Your success as a communicator partly depends on how well you can tailor your message to your audience. Your email's reader may be your colleague, a client, or maybe even a supervisor, but each reader will have a different background, project knowledge, and priorities. You can use project acronyms with a colleague who has the same deep project knowledge as you do, but those same acronyms might be confusing to an executive who needs an update for budget forecasting. The audience includes all the people included in the sender fields, so knowing your audience also means using these fields correctly. The To field is for the direct audience who needs to reply or take action from the email content. The CC field is for readers who need to receive the email conversation for reference or clarity, but do not need to take any action or reply. The BCC field is the field for the audience who only needs to see the initial email and none of the later chain of replies. Incorrect usage of the sender fields is a common business email mistake. It occurs when the audience and their roles are not thoughtfully considered. One note, use the BCC field very judiciously. Often it's better to send an email separately with a brief statement on why you're sending that information. And on to our fifth and final strategy. Review before sending. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Sending emails with spelling mistakes and grammatical errors can be infuriating for colleagues. Take the time to reread your emails, make sure they make sense, and have the right tone before you send them. Take a final moment to review your email before you hit send to make sure you have run spell check and checked your grammar. Check your capitalization too. Typos suggest carelessness and can even convey incorrect information. Double check dates, times, names, and triple check links, attachments, and whether or not the correct recipients are in the sender fields. When it comes to words you may have learned in the second grade, readers can be quite critical. Take special care not to mix up the common homophones below. You, your, it's, to, there, accept and accept, complement and complement, and affect and effect. While it might be acceptable in a text message, failing to capitalize and punctuate properly in workplace communications can make you look careless and lazy. Check out the following unprofessional sentence. I will call you after lunch, will you be free? Now, it'd be pretty common to see this type of communication in text messages, but an email is not appropriate. Compare it to this one. I'll call you after lunch, will you be free? Here we're using the correct grammar and punctuation, and we can note the stark difference in professionalism. Don't give the wrong impression of yourself and your company by being careless with email communication. It really does matter. If you want your email to cut through the clutter and actually solve problems instead of creating them, competent, clear, and direct email composition skills are necessary. In addition to the Oakhurst Dairy mishap, history is full of examples of simple typos costing companies millions of dollars. Poor writing and communication in a company will tarnish that company's image, internally and externally. Internally, employees will lose respect for those who have poor writing skills, and externally, consumers will notice when a communication in a company is lacking. The costs of poor writing are stark. The bottom line is that it will damage a company's image. Fortunately, the solution is straightforward. Improve your company's business writing. Ultimately, these efforts will avoid damaging errors and increase productivity. All right, now let's review some concepts. So the 5 skills that we've learned today are blot. Put your main point on top. Any details should follow. Subject lines. Make your subject line work for you. Searchable specific subject lines save time. Boy, that's a mouthful. Eliminate passive voice. Get active and add a subject to the verb's action. Know your audience. Know who you're writing for. And finally, review. Check yourself before you wreck yourself or your company. Now, on the next slide, I'm going to show an example email. Let's work together to identify what's wrong with the following examples. What does Jeff overlook in this email? Take a moment to read it and then we'll discuss. If you need to pause this and take more time, that's definitely fine. So, does Jeff put his bottom line on top? What is his main point for this email? What is his subject line doing for him? Does Jeff use any instances of the passive voice in this email? Does he seem to know the audience to whom he is writing? And finally, what tells you that Jeff might not have reviewed this email before sending? What are some key features that might give you that clue? Okay, now let's look at his improved email. This is Jeff's improved email message. As you can see, he puts the bottom line on top. I need to be out of the office on Tuesday, June 27th. I'm still looking for someone to cover my shift that day. That tells you what he needs and what he's looking for. His subject line is searchable and specific. You have a specific date in there, and instead of just calling it and titling it help, he's putting his main point for writing in that subject header. Schedule change request. 3, let's see, passive voice. So he did a pretty good job of using active voice initially in that first email, but an improved email would eliminate any unnecessary passive voice. I do not see any passive voice in this particular email, so Jeff, well done. Let's see, he does seem to know his audience in this this improved email. He's writing much more appropriately for a business audience, and I'm certain that receiving this email over the other one would be far less offensive to his coworkers. And then finally, he seems to have reviewed what he's written here before sending, which is evidenced by lack of misspellings and other distracting typos. Okay, so I think you're all ready to apply these strategies to your own emails beginning today. Good luck! If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.